Well, here we are again. It's gone live. It just told me on the screen. Good to see you all again, folks. Welcome to Coffee with Craig. I'm Craig Hamilton Parker. I'm a psychic medium, and we do these regular shows about the future. There's some predictions and talk about current events and what's happening. Have a look at some of the predictions I've already made and see what's happening in the ether and what's ahead for us all. And of course, today's a live one. So I'll be taking your live questions today, which means this show can go in any direction, because you can ask me all sorts of questions. Give me your thoughts. I can have a rant about it. I can make a few predictions about it. And generally, I think we generally have a bit of fun on this channel, actually. So, okay, well, welcome to the show. Welcome to Coffee with Craig. No, wait for it. Hang on, where's the titles gone? Here we go again. This is what's good about a live show. Welcome to Coffee with Craig. Right. Hi, guys. And nice to see you all again. And yes, I'm going to talk about some of the things that have been going on in the world and some of the thoughts about what's happening and give you a few of my predictions. And you can ask me questions. I can see, you're coming in live. So all your comments are coming up on one side of my screen now as we speak. If you're coming after the show, don't forget, if you're on a computer, you can click on the side and see the comments coming in so that you get a bit more of an idea of what's going on in the background, which I think is quite interesting to look at. And also, it's great fun also to have a look at the comments because we get fantastic comments on this channel as well. So if you're here for the first time, don't forget to subscribe. Again, if you're here for the millionth time, don't forget, always give me that thumbs up, please, guys, if you can remember to do that, because it helps the algorithm tremendously, particularly with these somewhat contentious type of comments that I make and so forth. Right, I'm going to tell you a few of my thoughts first of all, because it's quite interesting when I look at what's happening in the news. Jane and I sort of watch the TV sometimes and go, "Oh God, that's happened." You remember my predictions on that? Well, Jane's predictions on this or that. Our predictions keep coming up on the screen, and it's a weird feeling actually, because when you do psychic work, you kind of, I don't know, I suppose it's like someone else has made the prediction in a funny sort of way, because you're not tuned in all the time. Like people out there that might also be psychic, you're not always tuned in, are you? You're tuned in when you in the zone and when you're going to do a reading, or you're going to see what you can pick up or go into a meditation and so forth. So some of my first thoughts, one was this business about Trump and King Charles talking about America joining the Commonwealth. Now, that kind of floored me a bit when that came along, because those of you that followed this channel will know that I made a number of predictions over a long period of time. Actually, not just 1 year, but multiple years. People have asked me, what is the long-term future of things? And one of the things I've said in the long-term future is that the English-speaking peoples of the world will form a sort of Commonwealth. I mean, I didn't quite say it that they would join the Commonwealth quite, but when you look at it, it's like a Commonwealth. And many of you that follow the show can, you put your comments and tell me that I got this right or wrong, but I said that there would be a combination, and it would be a union of many of the English-speaking peoples plus India. I said New Zealand, Australia, India, America, Britain, and Canada, It was probably not particularly in America's good books at the moment, and vice versa. And South Africa even would come together almost like what the Commonwealth was, to form a union of trade, which I described as being a bit like the common market. Well, blow me. King Charles has suggested to Trump that there could be, why don't we join the Commonwealth? Which would, of course, completely transform the Commonwealth, who would be the head of the Commonwealth and so forth. But what an intriguing idea if that did happen. And at the moment, it's just a bit of talk. But I'm sure Charles will raise that point again. And Trump wasn't against the idea, probably not thought it through, because it's quite an unusual thing coming in from the left field, isn't it? A bit that. But could that be what I was seeing? Could there be a union like that? And actually, it would be quite a powerful thing, because America, Britain, Australia, and so forth, really, they're all up against China, and they're up against the European Union, which is a closed shop, and they're up against Russia, which is possibly going to be, it might form alliances again with China and so forth. So for many countries, like particularly like, you know, like I say, Australia is much the same, and New Zealand and South Africa, they're kind of out on their own, and Britain is as well. And although it's, I think, been quite helpful at the moment for Britain to be out on its own, people say about Brexit, Brexit was a failure. Actually, Brexit is probably keeping Britain afloat at the moment, because when I go to change my pounds into euros, I'm sure the pound would have been very, very weak if we were up against the same threat of the same level of trade barriers and tariffs that Europe's likely to be up against. So they're kind of a little bit optimistic about the British economy, despite Keir Starmer and the rest of it. We'll talk about that in a moment. But it's quite interesting that could that be the thin end of the wedge, as it were? Could that be the start of something like that? And what do you think? Do you think that would be a good idea, or do you think that would be a dire idea, that Britain and America could become that close, that Britain, America, Australia could become that close, that Britain, America, Australia, and Canada, because they've had a pretty hard show of things at the moment, but could it break down some of those barriers? Could it break down tariffs? And could it bring in the Commonwealth in a way that it reanimates it? Because it's a bit of a dinosaur now. Everybody's talking about, we want our freedom from the Commonwealth. We don't want anything to do with what was Britain. But when you look at Trump and J.D. Vance's agenda, it's not just about the USA. It's about world ideas. Like it or not. I'm not saying, I'm not saying this is right or wrong. Let's have your opinions. But for example, Vance will go into Europe or go into Britain and give us lectures about the way the country's being run and our lack of freedoms. For example, they're talking about no free trade without free speech. And I think that's a damn good idea, because I don't believe we have free speech properly here in the UK. We don't have suppressed free speech, but we kind of have filtered free speech, if you see what I mean. We get in my opinion anyway, we get a misguided view of world events, which is filtered through the very opinionated journalism of the BBC, of Sky News, of ITV News. They are all coming from the same background, really, that doesn't allow for any thinking other than their own, in my opinion. And you might think differently. You might see that as a free press, but I don't. And even here on YouTube, if you start talking about things that are a little bit too extreme, you'll end up down the same road as Russell Brand and people like that. So you've got to be a bit careful how you speak in this country. And so I think the idea of free trade and free speech coming together as a package, personally, is a great idea. I mean, here we have Keir Starmer, who's a lawyer mind, isn't he? He's a lawyer. And so he's a rule maker. Very fits in well with the same ideas that are in Europe, who are rule makers. There's a rule for everybody, of course, except us who make the rules. Oh, God, we're sensible, clever people, aren't we? So it's the same in every country, and it's the same in the US, isn't it? It's the same in France. Look what's happening with Le Pen. I'm going off here on also not directions I didn't intend, probably better. But look at Le Pen. What's happening there? There's the law's been thrown at it, and I'm sure something's been broken there, but they've gone for something and they say, okay, get that one out of power. All right, that's another person that's this far right that they talk about. Everybody's far right if they disagree with your opinion. Everybody's that's not in with the Harry and Meghan sort of mindset is far right. So we're getting it in every country. And it's sad, I think, to see that, and dangerous, and very, very dangerous for our politics. So I see, and for example, like prediction here on the far right in France, Le Pen is not. You're not going to see the end of Marie Le Pen. She's going to come back again big time. Her party, I feel, is going to get even more power. And I have said it before, she will one day be the president of France. And I've said that a long time ago. And despite the fact they're trying to kick her out of touch for 5 years, I still feel that she'll come to power. So that's a prediction I make on that one, which, if you look at the news at the moment, is completely against the odds. It's not a good bookie's bet, but that's how I see it. I see that, and I feel that will happen. And I feel that we'll get the same sort of rise like this in other countries in Europe. But again, it's a difficult situation because when we start messing with politics, and we start messing with politics with legal things, we start to get into very serious problems, because in Europe, I feel the law has been abused to bring in agendas that are political, and we've had politicized legal system. Similarly here in the UK, and of course in America too. And now, when I made my predictions at the beginning of the year, you'll remember, I had this vision of this legal business, and I saw the flames and the legal system. And you remember I had various visions and things about lawyers and lawyers and lawyers. I felt it was going to be a year of lawyers. And one of the predictions I made then, that would have been back in October last year, and way back before that, is that I said that Donald Trump would have, or go for, certainly, a third term in office. Now, I said this before he was elected as well, if you check back, guys. And so this is where there's now panic, because everybody, when I made that post, absolutely tore me to pieces. They say, you're such a fool, Craig, that you haven't read American rules and law. You can't have this. There's never been the case. There's never been a third term. Nobody can have a third term. It's written into our constitution. It's the bedrock of American legal American politics, or whatever you want to call it. It's the bedrock of everything. You can't have that. Well, now everybody's in panic, because already this week and recently, and a little bit before, with that guy Barron, who was talking about it too, I remember, who was seen as a bit of an extremist. But, are we going to get that? When Trump was asked about it, his attitude was, oh, it's far too soon to say something about that. But he didn't rule it out, did he? So I feel that there is going to be a third term of Trump. And one of the other things I said to you, do you remember me talking about this? I said one of the ways that Trump might do this, and again, I was torn to pieces about this, because they said there was a 12th Amendment or something that couldn't allow for this. But I said, because I don't know, I'm British, sorry. But if I'm going to see things, I see things for America and the rest of the world as well. But one of the things I said is, I saw Vance coming in as the next president, but Trump as the vice president. And then couldn't Vance then sort of say, okay, I'll now step aside and I'll resign, and Trump can be the president again. So now they're talking about that. At the time, it seemed completely crackpot. when I said that that could happen, and everybody jumped on me and said, "Oh, no way, no way." But it's being talked about. Now, did I see that actually happening, or did I see that this would all be in the news now? What was I seeing? Was I seeing it in reality, or was I seeing what we're seeing now, the talk about it and the debate happening? But you know what I also feel? I feel that, you know, at the beginning of the year, I was talking about all that business about legal stuff and the big, huge legal stuff. I feel the next step we're going to see in the next few months, and all what these predictions are being made in the 1st of April. April Fool. These are being made in the 1st of April, but they're not necessarily going to happen in the 1st of April. But one of the things I'm seeing in the coming period, and I feel this is going to start coming in soon, is the stripping out of the legal system in America of all the people who've been given political appointments, politically appointed judges. Now, as far as I know, when Obama came to power, he kind of stripped the whole system out and put his own guys in. And that's kind of stayed there now and has been very much one of the reasons why American politics has been under such a lot of stress, because there's been a lot of politically appointed people. I've seen the complete reverse happening very soon. A big strip out of the political system and a reappointment of the legal system. Why? Partly because this is part of the streamlining. This is part of the Doge type of idea being extended into new areas. But also, I feel, because this will be finally within the end of the term, the idea that there's going to be a third term, and the legal challenge of the fact that the election was cheated. Now, I'm not saying the election was cheated or it wasn't cheated, but I feel that's going to be the challenge. So the idea is, again, this is why I feel there's going to be so much panic ahead. And I'm not saying this is good or bad. I'm just saying this is how I feel it will be in America. We're going to start to see the Make America Great movement, as it were, becoming something that has a power of its own, that's going to be pushed into American politics now and pushed into the legal system, and particularly with JD Vance coming to more and more power as we move ahead. Now, come the midterms, I believe, I'm not sure how it works, but JD Vance will have to say if he's going to stand or be the vice president or what term. But at that time, that will be the time I anticipate when this whole business about Trump taking a third term is going to come into the frame. So there's a prediction for you. Come the midterms, we start talking about the third term of Trump, and we see JD Vance at that time coming to the fore with this question about who will be vice president, who will be president, and a major flaming sort of arguments within the legal system and in the media and so forth at that time. And as I've also predicted in some of my other stuff, I also feel Trump's son Barron would become a presidential candidate in due course. And I know a lot of you don't like JD Vance, a lot of you don't like Barron either, because he's a bit of an unknown at the moment. But I'm seeing that as being, again, I said this a long while ago. It was like I said this when they first put his face on the screen, and it was kind of new to most of us. Who's this Barron guy? I thought, crikey, he's going to be another president, or he's going to certainly be taking a move for it. So we're going to see quite a long-term shift in things in America that's going to happen. So those are things kind of, that I've already kind of seen that are starting to become a reality. And part about this whole idea of making predictions and so forth is that we kind of start to see the trends. We make a prediction early on, and it doesn't sort of happen overnight, does it? Most predictions are things that move in a direction, and you start to see things move in the times ahead. Now we're in quite one of you's putting something comments about the astrology at the moment. We are in quite an important astrological period at the moment. This April period is quite a powerful period, particularly since we got the Saturn shifts coming up. And for some of the patrons, I've been offering pujas being done in India to help with your Saturn shift and so forth. That has to close now, but I do offer these things sometimes to people that have been long-term patrons with the channel, and thank you all of you that do that both for the patrons and for the YouTube support. I do appreciate that, you guys. But anyway, we've been concerned about that. So this is quite an important time, and what's happening with Saturn in particular is it's all about justice, Saturn, and in particular about miscarriages of justice and the truth of the law and things being corrected. So Saturn, people often, when they, particularly in Vedic astrology, panic when they see Saturn. But Saturn actually is your friend, Sharavana. You remember I wrote the book, Be Happy, Sharavana. I'm showing this picture in case you've forgotten him. I spoke to someone that I wrote a book about, and I always found him a lovely man. Sharavana said to me, Saturn is your friend, Craig. Don't think Saturn's your enemy. And actually Saturn is there to help us to find the right way ultimately. So I think it's going to be quite an important shift at the moment with all of that, and we're going to see major changes in the law, and we're seeing goods and bad with that. I think that's a wrong thing happening in France, for example, but maybe we'll start to see more corrections and things coming to a better conclusion soon with this. This is a very important period for all things to do with the law. Now, I always thank all of you who put comments in, who point out when I've got predictions right or wrong. I don't mind the wrongs as well, but interestingly, another one I made some while back, I said about there would be huge fires in South Korea, and I didn't even see it on the news, but you've been telling me that there's been huge fires in South Korea, and that was something that I got right apparently, and I didn't even know it was there. I hadn't spotted, because we don't get much news about South Korea, so sadly. So anyway, let's hope they settle down, you guys, now. But thank you for pointing out that prediction there. I'm still a bit concerned about Musk, because I did say that I felt as if he might get something might happen to him as well. So and Zelensky as well, I saw being wounded, didn't I? So I'm still feel a bit, at this time in April, I feel a bit concerned about those two characters. There might be some attempts on them. I don't see them being taken out or anything, but I just feel a bit nervous as I speak to you. We're going to get the JFK files all coming out shortly as well. Already been released quite a lot of it, but I'm getting a sense there might be some implication there with some political family, maybe Bush, the Bush family. I'm seeing something amongst all that, that there's somebody knew something that they shouldn't have known, didn't speak up, and I feel that this will be revealed very shortly, and that might be in the next few months. I don't know when they release the final part of the JFK stuff. They've taken a lot of stuff out, but not all of it. So I think there's more to come on that, and I get the feeling there's going to be something embarrassing, that George Bush was involved somehow with it. But let's wait and see. I don't know. I was just getting a feeling about that. And Miramar, camera went for a minute. Miramar is interesting that we had those quakes there, because you remember I was saying about I saw major quakes happening around the Pacific Rim. So it was in the Far East, but it makes me wonder if there's more afoot with quakes ahead. Here we are in April speaking, and I feel there's more quakes ahead soon. We had Miramar, yes, but I still feel that the plates are moving. There's something still to come. We're going to Italy. It could even be part in Italy when I'm there. I get a feeling. And I feel also there's other quakes happening around the Pacific Rim, similar to what I've spoken about already. And you can check my other ones on that. Now, one other thing, the other things happening in the world, of course, is Ukraine. I feel that's also masking another potential problem, because Iran, I've said about Iran, and I feel that there's I'm seeing airplanes, and I'm seeing those stealth airplanes. I was keep getting images of stealth fighters, you know, those big ones, the bunker busting type stealth airplanes. And I feel there's still, I've said there's going to be a strike on Iran. I've been talking about that for a long time. I feel it will happen. I feel it is inevitable. And it's going to catch us at a time when we least expect it, because it will come right out of the blue without any warning. So I feel something may happen quite soon. Let's see. But I feel something might happen quite soon. And I'm, you know, sadly, more troubles in the Middle East. And as I said, I didn't feel that Gaza would settle down. I felt that would flare up again, and it kind of has. So will we ever see the end of it? Eventually, we will see settled in the Middle East, but I still feel we've got more to come soon. Greenland, another one I expect you'll want to ask me about. You know, I feel that something there is going to happen where Trump will do a deal over Greenland. He has got his mind on it. He's still got quite a long time in office to do something with this. Again, if you look back to my 2025 predictions, one of the things I said for the year ahead is going to be rare earth and those type of rare earth metals and lithium and everything that's needed to fuel the electronic revolution that we're all in at the moment. And my thoughts are that he'll do a deal. I almost feel as if it's a pay people. Get the people of Greenland to vote for independence, and then give them all $1 million each, because it's not a very big population, to buy the country, and make them all millionaires, and then make them all multi-millionaires by giving them some of the rights to the rare earth metals that I feel they know are under there. There are already, but I think they know there's certain resources there that are much bigger than anybody anticipates. And of course, the north of Greenland, all the potential oil resources around the north, all the potential shipping lanes could make Greenland a very, very strategically important place. But they'll want to move in for military purposes as well. But actually, the reality is it's the resources that they're after. So there's going to be a lot of conflicts there. I see some of you are in from Denmark here. I don't expect the people of Denmark are going to be very pleased about all that. But that's one of the things I see happening with that, a payment sort of plan. And finally, just to the UK. I mean, here in the UK, everybody's getting very, very fed up with the whole idea of Keir Starmer and his chancellor and all his team there. Unfortunately, I still feel taxes ahead. You know, it's going to become a absolute chaos. Like I said, I feel Britain is being propped up by Brexit, actually, because we would have been in a far, far worse position if we were tied in with the EU in the same way we were, because we'd be suffering the same problems that they've got. And German car industry, of course, is going to be hit really heavily by all what's going on. Particularly, I'm just shifting to Germany a bit, because when I was doing my meditations earlier, I was seeing about Germany and what was going to happen there. And the car industry, of course, is going to be hit, you know, very, very hard by Trump's tariffs. But the German people are very resilient people and very clever people and very brilliant when it comes to engineering. And I was seeing a whole new sort of transport system being envisaged in Europe because of what's happening with the car industry. I saw something, and it obviously is not going to happen in a hurry, but with the potential demise of the German car industry, I see it readapting. And I see a major move to introduce a complete, almost entire public transport system throughout Europe. Something where you build, in Europe, they're really great with things like trams. You can get trams all over the place, and brilliant in some of the countries when you can jump on a tram and you can be in places in no time whatsoever. Very economic, clean, efficient form of transport in certain city conditions. I'm seeing something like that being super expanded in Germany, and this becoming something that will give the new car industry a complete boost. It will be, why do we need cars? And it won't just be all, like a Hyperloop, someone said. Excuse me, coughing with Craig again. That sort of thing, that we have something where we get Germany will readapt and come up with a brilliant idea for a system that can be Europe-wide, that will be, it won't be all electric. It will be a mix of hydrogen, for example, fueled. It will be a mix of new types of fuels. It will be a mix of electric and standard petrol and everything. So if anybody wants to turn off the tap from Russia to America, to Europe, excuse me, they can't do it because we've got multi-fueled vehicles that can run on multi-fuels. So I'm seeing something like that happening, which is kind of a revolution which may start to see the end of the age of the car. Musk has had some visions of these type of things as well, but I mean that I think is going to be happening there. You couldn't have, for example, going back to London, Jane and I went to London. It was our anniversary, and we went up to London, and looking around London, I was looking, how could you ever sort this ghastly Sajid Khan's London transport chaos that's been created now, with 20-mile-an-hour zones everywhere, with bicycles given priority over everything. It's just going backward all the time. The only way you could sort London out is to take all the traffic out. First thing you'd have to do is get rid of all the bikes, because I personally don't think you can have bicycles running alongside other forms of transport. That's going back to a Stone Age way of thinking. Madness, if you ask me. I would first of all get rid of all the bikes. They're not saving any real fuel. But if you're going to go to war on the car, the only way you're going to do it is by putting in a really brilliant public transport system, not buses. A little bit like I've been describing, where I feel Germany's going to start taking the lead. You couldn't have self-drive cars in London. It would never work. You got everything coming from every direction, because it's a city that was not really designed for that sort of transportation. So if you brought the right sort of thing in, I was kind of talking to Jane about it. What would be the future of transport here in London? It can't go on like this. It's great sitting in a black cab going through and someone else is doing the driving. But if you try to drive through it yourself, it's an absolute nightmare. In fact, we watched the movie last night. I'm rabbiting on here, I hope you don't mind. We watched the movie Turn of the Screw the other night. It was an old version of it with Sir Ralph Richardson, I think, was in it, and they had scenes of London in it, and Trafalgar Square, where you could literally walk across Trafalgar Square, and one or two Morris Minors going around, but what have we got now? We've got chaos. And that's on Amazon Prime, actually. Turn of the Screw, great little one of those old movies. But we've got chaos there, people saying in the description, in the comments there, about monorails and things like that. Things we could have. I mean, Disney did a pretty good job when you go to Disneyland and things like that, and Disney World. They can get everybody out the park within seconds with monorails and the rest of it. We need that sort of vision. We really need that sort of vision, particularly with transport, because how are we ever going to sort the pollution problems out in the world? We have got pollution problems, whatever anybody says. We have got global warming issues as well. Okay, they've been twisted around, and I think there's been political agendas chucked into all that as well. But we need something a bit more visionary. Now, Musk come up with some brilliant ideas with that he's seeing as a worldwide thing. I'm seeing Europe doing their own thing and coming up with even better innovations, but it's got to happen soon. And we've got to start making those needs. people going on about India there. Look at India. You can hardly breathe. When I went to Bangalore, particularly, you could hardly breathe the air there. It was so full of fumes. It's getting a little bit better, but my God, we need something new. We got to do something instead of the motor car. So I've gone off on a bit of a jaunt into other ideas here, but that's me. And you can ask me a few thoughts now. So I just going to put up a couple of your questions. Well, I think what I'll do, I'll just have a little break for a minute. I'll put my little advert up about my group readings and my workshops. You can find the link in the description for that. Give me a little bit of a breather for a minute while I have a look through some of your questions here, and I'll try to put a few up on the screen in your comments. So it's good time to put them in now, actually, and you've got real proper full-on questions. I can star them while I'm putting the movie up for, well, not movie, just an advert. Okay, you'll probably get a Google ad jump in, a YouTube ad jump in at the same time. So yeah, so these are about my online group readings and also my online circles that I do and where I teach psychic development. So let's pop that up for them. You enjoy interacting with me on programs like this and Coffee with Craig and so on, you'll really enjoy joining me on Zoom, because on Zoom I offer two types of things. First of all, I do demonstrations of mediumship in small groups, round about 15 people or so. So there's a very high likelihood you'll get an in detailed message. And also with those sessions, we have questions and answers at the end. So it gives everybody a chance to interact with me in some way or another. So those are my kind of group psychic readings that you can see in the description below. But I also now offer what I'm calling, it's a webinar, I suppose, but it's what I'm calling my psychic school. So you can join me for some mentoring, for some guidance. We'll involve things such as meditation with that. I'll be teaching what we call the mechanics of mediumship, basically how it works. And again, lots of opportunity for you to interact with me so I can help you with your spiritual journey. Again, small little groups, but very powerful little groups and very good energy to it. All in the description below. So have a look at the link and I hope to see you. Anyway, have a look now at some of the clips from those sessions. She's going, woohoo! Because I feel that it's about time, it's like she tells me you're also quite interested in astrology.
Yes, I'm doing astrology. Yes, exactly.
Studying
exactly.
astrology.
Yes,
She had a habit of rubbing her hands like this, didn't she too? Was this a habit she had all the time? She'd go get her doing that and like to do this as well with things. So she's there, and although she's a comfortable build lady, I feel that she would like to jump or dance around quite a lot. I don't know. I'm seeing her bouncing around. So she was quite a big lady, but very agile,
Yeah, she did that all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
So I just see her there, though. She said she's just seeing some green shield stamps, but she was absolutely fanatic about those. And
We've
was
been talking about green shield.
You were talking about it. There we go. I knew there was something especially significant about the green shield stamps. Away again, get a stillness within, and they'll be able to give you thoughts and feelings, often through feelings, about what you should do. What's the next step in your life? What should I do about this problem? Ask the question. It's the same thing when you do mediumship. Ask the question: are you a man or a woman? Right? Are you a friend or a family? And so, like I say, ask in your own work, in your own inner work, in your own meditations. When you're tuning into spirit, ask. We need to do it by building it up. This is what my teacher always taught me. You build it gradually. You gradually get the sense, and this applies to everything. We're going to talk a lot about the guides tonight, but it's a sensing first of all. What do we sense with what the spirit's given us? What? Pow! What? How did you know that? And then once you found the leaf, it all flows. So how did it know that? How did it know that my mother called herself Vicky, but her birth name was Ethel? They can never work that out. And loads of facts. So, I mean, my first one particularly was just one fact after another. And now I didn't have any prior knowledge of the NAADI. I was one of the first Westerners, apart from a few odd people in the West that had found it, used it. And in me, it was just life-changing. There we are. Tiny in the corner of the screen. I sussed out what to do with that guy. Okay, I was just clicking some of your comments because you can star them as you go along here. So it's quite difficult to catch them all, actually, because it's the interesting questions are it's often fly by, and it's a job to catch you all. But yeah, thanks. I'll address some of those things that you've said there, which is nice of you guys to put the questions up. Now, obviously, on these shows, it can't all be just endless lists of predictions. Some of you say, "Oh, Craig, you go off on opinions and things like that, and you're given too much opinion." But that's part of the whole concept of the show. Otherwise, I only ought to just make the one video at the beginning of the year, shouldn't I? There's my list of predictions. That's it. Now let's wait till next year. So we have to look how the trends move, what's going next. And not endless predictions. But obviously, I'm making predictions as we go. Oh, thanks for being a member. That was kind of you. Hi there, and also thank you for making a donation like that. That's very much appreciated. So let's go through. This one came in earlier on. Looking forward to this. That was at the beginning of this thing. Can you tell us how much more misery the people in the UK have to take? You want misery predictions, eh? People are at breaking point with the government. Well, we don't. I think there is a strong feeling of resentment towards the politics that we have at the moment in the country, isn't there? From all sides. Those that have would normally be what we would call left wing feel disappointed by their leaders, and that they're not really paying attention to what was traditional Labour voters and the working class, as it were. Those that are in the middle ground feel disappointed with what's going on because they feel they're being taxed out of existence and that they're being punished. Those who are older voters who are on pensions feel like they're being attacked. And the poor feel like they're being attacked too, because welfare's being attacked and cuts are being made and everybody's been given false promises. There's another opinion, I suppose, but it's a truth, isn't it? So I have said that I feel Starmer won't finish his term in office. He will be pulled out of office. What he's done at the moment in order to avoid the crisis that is really on him is he's been putting a lot of his focus on trying to look like the world statesman. I'm the one that can talk to Trump and so often he's trying to do a lot of world stage. This is what usually happens, isn't it? If a person is doing badly at home, let's get out of the heat and let's try to make it look as if we're doing something well elsewhere. He will be pulled from power, but that won't be the end of it, because I have already said that it's going to take a while before we get a complete change of government. But I was actually very pleased to see that we've got I like that idea of no free trade without free speech, because we have had everybody's voice seems to be stifled at the moment. So which energy will be in future? Renewable, fusion, nuclear? Well, like I've spoken before, I see that I've spoken before in depth about my visions of an unlimited form of energy that we will be able to make. But for now, we're having to use the technology we've got, and it could come from something like a nuclear fusion idea. But I feel it's something that they do it in a kind of way that it's simple to do. At the moment, if the idea of fusion as opposed to fission is that hopefully the more energy you put the energy in, you get more out than you put in. But the problem is it has to be done on huge, gigantic scales in order to do that at the moment. We need something that is a fission engine that is that size, something small that you can power other things from. And I feel it comes from something where we understand something. It has something that we understand something about water, I feel too, because I feel it's something to do with water. Now, like you get heavy hydrogen, for example, which was part of atomic process. It's not to do with that. There's something else in the future that we will see. Then it has some connection with water, because I feel with water, there's something we don't understand about it. There's something special about it. For example, the way it can create multiple sort of fractals when we see snow and ice and things like that. There's something mathematically about it. There's something special about it. The burnt sun, isn't it, really? Hydrogen and oxygen. And I feel there's something we can do to where we can do something more with water, just like we can break water into oxygen and hydrogen, but there's something deeper than that. And I can't give the answer to this, that it has something to do with fission and using water. So that's all I can tell you. I don't know, but that's something for the future. I feel that I've already spoken about before, but we may get a breakthrough in that sometime. There's nothing out there at the moment that comes anywhere close to what I'm talking about now, but we will see something in the years ahead. What you're saying is World War III imminent? Well, we're already in it in a way, aren't we? If you look at it, the world's in quite a lot of warfare already. I feel we will get a strike on Iran, because I don't think they're ever going to do it through negotiation. I sense there's something going on in the background. The secret war that I spoke about in a recent video is there. It's going to happen, but will it be like World War III, what you might have as your vision, Jenny, of what you think World War III might be? No, I don't think so. I get the feeling these are necessary steps in order to break the back of the regimes there that are still threatening our world. When you think about it, after we've had a First World War and a Second World War, and we've still got dictators in charge, we've still got Xi Jinping, who is basically a dictator, and he's not voted into office. Putin, who's not voted into office. Ayatollah and all that crowd, not really voted into office, or fake sort of politics. And even in our own democracies, we don't. Not everybody gets the vote. You twist things around a bit, like they're trying to do to stop Reform Party by changing the election times so that you can't get a chance to vote on these upcoming ones in May. So we're never in. It seems crazy that so many people died fighting for what they saw as being, the democratic process and freedom, and those freedoms are taken away from us. So we had all that, and we still haven't sorted it out, have we? Will we ever sort it out? Yes, I think we will one day. I feel in the far future, as I've said, that we'll have a system where people who are put into power are based upon what you could broadly call character, not personality. They're character. They're good character. People that have care. And I see politicians in the far, far future of not being paid at all. They have to do it almost like it's not religious, but almost in the same way that someone might go into a religious order, that they go into an order where it is done in such a way that you give up your worldly possessions. It becomes a calling. So it's only people of good character. And in order to go into those positions, you would have to go through and have proven yourself in life as being an exemplary person. Now, that sounds very idealistic, but I see something like that. But this is a long way ahead. But we've still got to keep going before we can get to those golden ages that we hope for, that I do feel will come. It will come after a spiritual revolution, not a religious revolution. This is something that transcends all the religions of the world. There will be a spiritual flip of some sort, and ultimately that is one of the things that will come out of this. And any third world wars, no, I don't see it in that way. I see it, there will be wars, there will be small wars, there won't be, well, the small wars, I mean, you can look at Gaza and call that a small war, but it's still dreadful, isn't it? But there will be still conflicts, but I don't see the whole world being taken over by some great cloud of smoke. It won't be that way. So that's how I feel it. That was a comment you made, Alexandra. I like to put your comments up because, you have your brave voice sometimes. Yeah, but Calcutta, smog was unbelievable. But yeah, I went to Calcutta too, or Kolkata as they call it now. And the smog there was, but Bangalore was even worse the first time we went. But Calcutta, I remember they're building the roads as you're driving on them, driving on roads in construction, and underneath all the motorways there's people sleeping in poverty, just sleeping under the it's an incredible mix. But India will be an amazing future for India. I'm going to do a full video on India soon when I get back from our vacation, because we're off to Italy soon. Just a few comments I see. Greenland's not for sale. What about Romania? Yes, people have been concerned about the Eastern European countries, and also I see you're saying about Poland here too. And I remember when I went to Tallinn in Estonia, you can see the remnants of what was there when it was under Russian occupation years ago, and the amazing humor of the people towards the it feels like that, the Russian occupation of Estonia. They had tongue-in-cheek sort of attitude to these statues that were still remaining and things like that. Are very funny, actually, people. But the same for Poland, same for Romania, same for all the Baltic states as well. Come to that. There's obviously a great deal of fear about the rise of Russia, but I see Russia as a wolf without teeth, really, because already it couldn't win the war in Ukraine easily. It's kind of winning some of it, isn't it? But could that country invade all of Europe? Could it invade Romania? Could it invade Poland? I mean, it's definitely a threat. But the rearmament of the EU against them kicking and screaming into doing this is essential, really, because if you've got a bully on your border, the best thing you can do is invest in armaments, which is a terrible and awful thing to say. But as they say, the old adage says, in times of peace, prepare for war. Because just like the whole of history, like Carthage at the time of the Roman Empire, as I was slipping with the word Rome instead of Russia earlier. But if you take Carthage, Carthage started to become a great expanding, tremendous culture with trade all over the Mediterranean, and Rome didn't like it, so they went in and they had the armaments. Carthage didn't, and they destroyed it to the point where they plowed the soil with salt, as it said in the stories. They made it so nobody could live there again, and that is the way it works. It says in the Bible, we shall reap the harvest that others have sown. As you sow shall you reap. But we'll plunder it, we'll take someone else's. So you have to have defense, as it were, and it's horrible. But a time will come, I feel too, when we look at the long-term future of the world, where that whole situation will change. We will have a world peace force rather than police force. But again, that will only come after this major change that will come in the much further ahead in our futures, where there comes a rethink of everything that is spiritual and rethink about everything that has to do with our life. And I feel that there will be some form of catastrophe that will trigger that too. It'll be something like either a volcanic or a meteorite strike, or something that is making us think hard. It doesn't wipe us out, it doesn't create as much disaster as it was expected, but something pulls us together as a humanity at some point. And it's simultaneously at that time some of the great minds come into the world. Do you still think that the Conservatives will win in Canada, given that we now have a WEF slave installed as PM? The polls are all showing Liberals in lead. Super worried. Trump played spoil sport with Conservatives in Canada. And you've got our ex a Bank of England guy, haven't you, over there, who's a right old twit. so my camera went, someone turned me off. Yes. What was his name? I've forgotten his name now. But I mean, no, I still feel Trump kind of upset the apple cart there in terms of your politics, because naturally the people of Canada were horrified that they should be so I don't demeaned to say you're just another state of America. Get used to it, guys. I feel that Canada. I still feel the Conservatives will win there somehow. I feel there's a week is a short time in politics, and you still got a bit of time to go. And I feel that Canadian. Yes, I still feel Conservatives will get in. So, yep. So I feel. Another new member. Thank you very much for just joining up there, Maria. Thank you. Thanks very much. Okay, so I think we're pretty much getting to the. I've done quite a few of you now. Oh, that was a nice comment, actually. Congratulations on your anniversary. Actually, yeah. Just before I finish, actually, I've just mentioned that actually because you know, most of you know Jane when we've come on and so forth, but today's the 1st of April, right? And that's our anniversary on today, on the 1st of April. And we'll be going out this evening. We've already been to London for the weekend. We went and saw the Who, which were brilliant, actually, absolutely brilliant to see the Who again. They are such energy to those guys, even now, amazing. They hobbled on the stage and they more or less joked about that. Great, but yeah, thanks for the comments, and lots of you said about that as the comments were going up earlier on, and I appreciate that from you all. Yeah, when Jane and I got married, it was the 1st of April, and I've always been a person who used to pull an awful lot of jokes on the family, you know. I'm just trying to make sure I've got the live bits on. Yeah, I can see your comments coming in a bit more better. Yeah, I used to pull hell of a lot of jokes on the family. I mean, my parents had a restaurant and I renamed it Ethel's Diner because my mother didn't like the name Ethel, so I put Ethel's Diner up so the whole world know about it, and now millions of you know that name too. My mother's passed the spirit now, but I always did a lot of big jokes on the family, and so did my brother sometimes. And when Jane and I got married, everybody thought it was a joke because Jane and I met and we married pretty damn quick. Actually, we kind of knew it was the right thing to want to marry, and we got married quite quick. And we decided to get married in what was then Bittern Spiritualist Church, and spiritualism is not everybody's cup of tea. And I remember my Uncle Mike was standing outside absolutely shaking in his boots when we were going to get married because he was ready to go into the first time into a spiritualist church. And he had visions of Ouija boards, you know, and all sorts of things. And these spiritualist churches actually are usually pretty tatty. And and Bittern at that time, it's all been rebuilt. It's a nice looking church now. But in that day, it was actually what had been converted into some barns or something had been converted to make it. I remember my daughter from the first marriage, because we had our children from our first marriages in there as the bridesmaid. I remember my daughter Celeste saying, Dad, why are you getting married in a garage? When you look at it, it looks like a garage, you know, and you're doing the vows over a tombola in the corner, you know, and things like that. Oh, very funny. In fact, it was John Stokes gave Jane away at the time, which was Doris Stokes's husband, you know. So that was Doris Stokes, the medium. Some of you might have known about that. But it was so funny about the sort of the way it is with the world, and the 1st of April being a very important day for me and for Jane. So thank you for your nice comments there, and again to all of you, thank you for joining the show like you have, you know, and supporting us. Oh, you're christened in a spiritualist church, you say? Yeah, that's really nice, isn't it? And they have naming ceremonies there, and spiritualism sadly is so few people go now. Actually, Jane and I were shocked last time we went that the place is as empty. So but it's still worth going. And those that have never been, particularly in the UK, because I know more about the spiritualism in the UK, and it's well worth going to visit sometimes, because you know you do see some really nice mediums there sometimes. You know, I mean, it's past its heyday, but it's still worth a visit. So let me just conclude by saying that why not go and have a visit sometime and keep that going, because Jane and I wouldn't have met without it, and our mediumship certainly wouldn't have been as tuned as it is if we hadn't had that there to help with our opportunities to be able to demonstrate on the platforms. So, and Psychic News too, from the Spiritualist magazine, Psychic News, it's in serious trouble. Just go and buy a few copies. You go and look at psychicnews.org.uk and go and buy a copy. That would also be a nice thing to do to keep the spiritual movement going in the background. If they could just modernize, they'd have thousands of people. If they could put it on YouTube, they'd have thousands of people. But the very old-fashioned mindset, unfortunately. But anyway, thanks very much for joining me today, guys. I'm going to say goodbye in a moment as soon as I can find my videos to conclude. God, this is the problem when you do it all yourself. You think there we go. Yeah, I'm going to say goodbye now. So thanks for joining me again, guys. See you again soon. Don't forget, give us that thumbs up if you've been here. Don't forget to follow us and put a few comments afterwards in the description in the comments below. And if you want to join me on my some of my live shows on Zoom, where you can ask me questions and you can learn from me and interact with me, there's still a few places left. All right, see you all again soon. Bye for now. If you look back at my earlier predictions, and in particular the predictions I made on the newspaper, The Sun's website, I did actually say on there, the actual words were, there will be a flu epidemic linked to bioterrorism.
And my thoughts are that Liz Truss will make it to the final, be the next PM. I think she will actually have a final battle between her and Rishi Sunak. We've not seen the full end of Boris Johnson either, I tell you. But Rishi Sunak actually will eventually, I feel, be the next leader of the Conservatives. So I think there's going to be a few conflicts that Britain's going to be drawn into, including I think Russia is going to take some moves against Ukraine. I think she will make it past her platinum jubilee, which comes up this year. But I think after that, we'll see a sudden and quick deterioration in the Queen's health. And I think we might lose the Queen towards the end of 2022. There's going to be a huge backlash from over the Netflix programs and screening, because I feel it comes out at a bad time. Charles will come to become King Charles, but his reign, I feel, will be short. I said that Prince Charles would be hit by an egg. And of course, there it is, all in the press today. The marvelous person she is. She does something extraordinary. That could even put her life a little bit at risk with the way she did this. Okay. Is there something also there that's not been spoken about fully? Did they also discover something with Kate that wasn't quite right? A huge swarm of people knocking the doors of Europe and America. And I feel that Ukraine conflict is going to be a kind of a grinding conflict that goes on and on. I also feel that there's something going to happen in the Middle East as well. I feel as if there's going to be a sudden and unexpected thing happen in the Middle East. So I feel they're going to take it into their own hands, and I feel we're going to get a strike from Israel. This is going to be one of the significant things in 2023. I've said it before and I say it again. I feel Israel, with the help from the USA, will strike the Iranian nuclear facilities. I said that there would be an earthquake that would shake New York. At this time, I've been sensing that for a while that there's going to be a big earthquake of some sort. And this could well come up during April period. I'm seeing a bridge collapsing, actually the whole infrastructure of it going. I predict something very dark happens to President Joe Biden. He's been pulled from power, sacked, as it were, and quite close to the election time. But I kind of sense it's more to do with illness, perhaps, senility, and people stopping him because of that. So it could even be that a new candidate will run for the presidential nominee. I predict that Trump will win the November 2024 election. And I feel very strongly that the black vote is going to move towards Trump. See him as a sort of a bit of a cool guy. I can't see Trump being put in jail despite what they're throwing at him. I can't see a jail sentence with him. But I get the feeling one of the candidates has an attempt on the candidate's life. Could there have been a plan to assassinate either him or Trump, perhaps? There's going to be an assassination attempt on Trump, I think. And that will fail. But he might maybe get wounded or something like that.